This week on CrunchWeek, Uber's terrible, no good, very bad week, and Barbie apologizes. Hello, welcome to CrunchWeek. My name is Alex Wilhelm. We are joined this week by the inimitable
Sarah Buhr.
And the execrable
Ryan Lawler.
There we go. It's been probably one of the most interesting weeks in technology in the last, I think, couple of months because we've seen one of these unicorns, these large companies, really fall flat on their face repeatedly. And I think we've had a lot of fun covering it, but I think the Uber saga is just almost too big to ignore.
The soap opera.
A soap opera? Is that really a soap opera? Is that fair?
It kind of, yeah. It's like as Uber turns, like things just keep coming. Things just keep happening.
Like sands through the hourglass.
Okay, we can't. Let's not do that. Going back to the beginning, it starts with the dinner.
It starts with the dinner. Well, I mean, to be fair, it started long before that, but let's talk about the dinner.
Okay.
So Uber is doing this charm offensive. They have an off-the-record dinner in New York at a very fancy restaurant and invite a bunch of influencers. Ed Norton was there.
Ed Norton, the actor.
The actor,
yes,
yeah.
And his wife, yes.
Ariana Huffington was there. Who else was there? Michael Wolff was there. And Michael Wolff invited along BuzzFeed's Ben Smith. And so basically what happened was, toward the end of the conversation, the end of the dinner, you know, they're deep in, and Ben Smith starts asking questions of Emil Michael, who is their new SVP of
apparently they were,
business.
according to Michael Wolff, they were on the end of the table kind of having a private conversation.
Right.
So they weren't like standing up before the crowd, you know, pontificating. They were just chatting.
Yeah, it wasn't like a live Q&A for
Right.
everyone there at the table. It was just sort of,
but
you know,
journalist and executive.
Journalist and executive. And evidently, you know, Emil basically said something along the lines of, you know, basically they could do opposition research against critics and specifically mention Sarah Lacy at Pando because they've been
journalists specifically mentioning, mentioned journalists, but specifically about Sarah Lacy and her negative coverage.
But they would do oppo on journalists, and then how would they get? They can't publish it under their own steam. So how would they get that out into the market?
Well, no one would know it was them.
Oh, so they would seed it.
They would seed it.
And then there was also Godview that you could apparently look at.
Well, that's a whole other.
Godview is not
thing.
even new. Like,
but so this conversation happened, and then you know, that happened Friday night. Over the weekend, you know, BuzzFeed made some calls, and then on Monday they published this, you know, shocking revelation. Uber executive says they, you know, suggests that the company do oppo research, investigate journalists' private lives, and launch a smear campaign.
And how did that go over in the media?
Oh, well, surprisingly enough, the people in the media weren't too thrilled about the idea of Uber investigating their private lives and then, you know, seeding that information.
The funny thing is, I think we all kind of oppo ourselves on Twitter every single day. So like, I wonder how much dirt there is kind of to find. But at the same time, terrible, terrible thing. And then they didn't fire the executive in question.
They did not fire the executive. In fact, a day or two later, he wrote a blog post about, you know, one of their new initiatives.
Right, but didn't Senator, I mean...
That's so tone deaf.
yeah, pretty much.
Hey, media, go fuck yourself. Thank you.
Pretty much, yeah.
And by the way, while I'm not fired, here's a blog post for you to read.
That guy's got like Teflon job security because like what else could he possibly do to get fired? I mean, like he's.
I really thought the only way they were going to fix this in the eyes of the media was to let him go.
They just haven't. They don't care.
They don't care. They don't. Yeah.
And that's really what it comes down to. Is like it's just obvious at this point that they like don't give a shit what anyone thinks. But I mean, let's put this into context, right? This isn't the first sort of horrible thing that they've done. It's like the CEO has publicly said that they tried to like, you know, derail their opponents, like fundraising.
Yeah.
You know, it's come out that they have tried to, you know, mess up the recruiting for other companies. I mean, it's just like all of these stories. There's this drumbeat, this cadence of like bad behavior, and this just sort of, and every week it's kind of like, oh, what could Uber do?
They also didn't want to take responsibility for, you know, certain drivers' behaviors.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Or
partner contractors, right? I mean,
right. Yeah, that's
responsibility.
And so it's like we already
right. It's one thing after another, after another, after
one
another.
One thing after another. It's like, what can Uber do next week that's more horrible than what they did last week? Well, like, I mean, tune in for that.
I think this is a little different though, because usually when Uber does something dumb, we all kind of go, oh shucks, and then take an Uber home from work. But this time, at least 10 of my friends that I saw publicly quit using Uber and canceled their accounts and left. And it's a small thing. We only have so many friends that are watching this story compared to the Uber's overall base. But at least, people are voting with their feet this time. Maybe there's a different flavor or tinge or element to response to this level of shitbaggery from them. Maybe it's finally enough to make some change. I don't know. But Lyft certainly gets the win here for free.
I think that's
just for being less evil.
Right, but I think that's a temporary thing. I think people will be back because Lyft, Uber is, arguably easier, cheaper. There's a lot of reasons that they get it. There's a reason why they get away with what they're doing, why they don't care.
We're thinking about from this very, very tiny, insular community of people that we know who mostly are in Silicon Valley, who mostly are, people that are used to technology and have been using this for 4 years or whatever. But there's like a whole world of people who have no idea what Uber is.
Right.
And this is their first exposure to it.
Well, it's a test. Can Travis be so bad as CEO that it can torch the growth of his company? And so far the answer is, to your point, no. But on the subject of cartoonishly evil figures, Barbie was also in some trouble this week.
Usually she's not a cartoonishly evil figure. She's usually very positive and adorable, but yes.
And yet this time she was really sending a very bad message to young women and girls about how they can't be developers but can only draw puppies, I think the problem was.
Yeah, she can only draw puppies, and she was somehow a computer engineer but broke everything.
Wait, back up. So there's a book.
Let's set the stage here. So there's a book published in 2010 that went along with, that was being packaged with, from my understanding, with the computer engineer Barbie that was supposed to encourage women in STEM and computer engineering. However, the book portrayed Barbie as this complete idiot that couldn't fix her own stuff even though she was a computer engineer.
She couldn't fix her own computer even though she was a computer engineer.
She couldn't. In fact, the really crazy part is she had to go to Steve and Brian, these two dudes that we didn't even know if they were also computer engineers. That was not very clear, but she had to take everything to them.
Were they wearing carrying surfboards and having
like
did they have board shorts on?
Like Ken. No, they were just kind of regular dudes.
Okay.
And they were they seemed like perfectly nice dudes. They were willing to help her out, but she infected Skipper, her younger sister's laptop, with a virus.
Skipper's not the dog, turns out. I had that one backwards.
Yeah, this is Skipper. For people who don't know, is Barbie's younger sister. She's her teeny bopper sister that pals around with her, and
that's what she gets for looking at porn on someone else's computer.
Oh.
No. What happened is Barbie had a USB drive that she somehow carried around her neck in a heart. And she decided to insert it into Skipper's computer, even though Skipper told her, hey, my homework is on here. I'm doing my homework right now. Barbie said, no, let me just put this in. She puts it in, infects her computer, and erases everything, including all her music files and her homework.
I think that this is a metaphor for Barbie's heart, in that it's just infected. It's got a virus. She can't.
What? No. No. Why does she have a heart-shaped USB stick around her neck?
That's the other.
Who really? Thought this would be fashionable? No.
And why?
All right, but they apologized for this. This is terrible, terrible, terrible book.
Yeah, they did. They said that they had since made some changes to the book, but then they also pulled it from Amazon. It had so many bad comments on it and so much negativity that they pulled it from Amazon.
So when was this? But what I don't understand is, if this book was published in 2010,
why haven't we?
Why do we care about this now?
Why did it take so long? Yeah. Okay, so there was this blogger who is also a writer for Disney. She did not appreciate being called a Disney blogger. She posted on her blog, and she writes for Disney, and she had so much traffic that she had to repost it onto Gizmodo and send all the traffic there because it crashed her site. So she posted on Gizmodo, and then the entire tech world picked it up.
Because it's terrible. I mean, it tells.
But she didn't know about it until her friend, who had it at her house, that her little girl was looking through the book, and she picked it up and started reading. And she said, "You've got to check this book out." And they started reading it, and they were like, "Wait, what the fuck?"
It sounds like it was written 40 years ago, not 4.
Right.
That's what kills me.
Well, and this is not the first time. This is not the first time that Barbie has done this. I mean, like,
this is not the first time that Barbie has set up bad expectations for
young women.
For young women.
Yeah, I mean, I remember.
This is the first time.
No, I remember as a preteen. I remember Barbie, Teen Talk Barbie had to be recalled because about a little over 1% of them were programmed to say stuff like, "Math class is tough. Let's go shopping." I mean,
wow.
like,
who in QA is like, no, that's brilliant. Make them all.
I really do wonder who is allowing these decisions to be made and who's allowing this to go out in the market. I really don't know. It's very curious.
Well, it has been a week of bad behavior, I think, kind of all the way around. I really hope that when we kind of come back this next week or the week after that, we have some positive, happy things to say.
Right.
But in the meantime, stop sucking, everybody.